I think it goes without saying that nowadays time is precious. There are a lot of things that we want to fit in a day, and most of us have pressures outside of work that mean we have to get things done. When I worked as a PA, I was really super efficient. I would get through a ton of work while also managing my executive's workload. I was so organised. I had files. I had everything diarised. I had lists for lists. I was absolutely on it. And then I stopped being a PA and became a business owner, and all those organisational skills went, quite frankly, down the drain. Very quickly, I became really, really unproductive. I was the world's worst procrastinator. I would literally fall down the YouTube hole with the best of them. And although I would have a ton of to-do lists, I very rarely finished anything. I was still working really, really hard, but I wouldn't say I was working smart. But this was before I had kids, so it didn't really matter if I spent all day on something because work was pretty much an all-day thing for me anyway. There were no real other concerns, and I wasn't managing anyone else's time, so frankly, who cared how long it took me to do anything? Well, then I had my first child, and I very quickly realised that, quite frankly, I had to get my shit together. Gone were the days of mulling over a blog post or spending a few weeks on an event programme. I had a certain number of hours, and that had to be it. I had to fit all of my work in that time frame. So I had to learn to be productive because I would literally drop the ball and the baby and everything else. So I did what any good executive assistant would do. I researched productivity methods, and I researched hard. And today I want to share my top 10 tips with you. These are the things that I put into place to help me with my workload and my life in general. Okay, this is going to be a quick run through. So are you ready? Grab a pen. Here goes. Okay, this is my first point. How long does everything actually take? This might seem like a really obvious tip, but actually it's really super helpful. And I got this tip from a book which is literally called Get Your Shit Together by Sarah Clark. If you haven't read it, I really recommend that you do. It's a great read. So how long does everything take? If you are, for example, someone who is always late in the morning for work, have you actually ever asked yourself why? It might simply be that you do not give yourself enough time to get ready because you haven't worked out that, say, showering, eating your breakfast, watching Good Morning Britain, talking to your other half actually takes something like 2 hours easily, and you give yourself, what, 20 minutes? The same applies for work tasks. Now for me, I know I have to write, say, 3 or 4 blog posts per week. Usually they take about 2 hours. So I know I have to schedule a maximum time of about 8 hours per week on this task alone. Now once I worked that out, I could schedule the time in my diary and not stress that I never had enough time for actually writing blog posts. So this is my first point. You need to work out how much time stuff takes, reoccurring stuff. Simply get your phone, click on the stopwatch and literally time yourself. If you're taking too long on one particular task, is there a way that you can simplify the process or skip anything? Some things just aren't worth the time. So once you know, you can work out how to improve the process. You can also use some fancy software that helps you track how long you spend on certain projects and tasks. For a really free, simple piece of time tracking software, I would recommend toggle.com. And just as an aside, if you work for multiple executives, it's quite good fun to work out how much time you spend on each executive. Something like Toggle will give you absolutely conclusive data if one executive complains that you don't spend enough time on their stuff. Okay, here's my second tip. Do the worst first. Now, most of you will have heard of, if you haven't already read it, Brian Tracy's book, Eat That Frog. There are something like 21 tips on how to be more productive, but the one that's really stuck with most people is to eat the frog. And that means, in other words, doing the worst crappy tasks first. Now, for me, to make sure that I do that, I have this little friend sitting on my desk. I stole him off of my son. He sits with me, and every morning I look at him and I think, I have to do that task that I don't want to do. So, think about what your frogs are. What are the things that you hate to do and constantly put off? Although Brian Tracy suggests you do them first thing in the morning, I have a slightly adapted suggestion. Yes, they absolutely need to be done, and no, you shouldn't put them off, but you can also schedule them for a time that makes them slightly easier to digest. For me, I hated doing expenses for my executives as much as I hate doing them for myself. I used to schedule them for a Friday morning when the office was quiet and I didn't necessarily have the brain capacity. I mean, back when I worked, Thursday was the new Friday, so Friday mornings weren't the best for me. Which is number 3, adopt a rolling to-do list. This is my favourite tip, and here's why. While I was working as an EA, as I said at the start, I was really productive and I was able to shift through a ton of work because I adopted a rolling to-do list. So I had my day planned, I had the frogs that I needed to eat, and I had time scheduled for other tasks. But I also scheduled time to tick off the tasks that I hadn't completed the day before. 9 times out of 10, they were actually the frogs that I'd put off the day before. And I had a really great method that worked, an absolute dream for me at work. So I have a notepad, this is my notepad, that I carry everywhere around the office, into meetings, at my desk, and it goes in my handbag as well. In this notepad, I write just all of my notes, actions, tasks, anything and everything I needed to remember stuff. And then I gave myself, and I still do this, half an hour, 20 minutes at the end of each day to transfer my actions to my task list, which is online. It gave me a really simple to-do list that I can work through each day. Anything that hasn't been actioned because it wasn't urgent or I didn't get around to it gets added to the following day, and then I do that first thing in the morning. Obviously, there are tasks that roll throughout the week and months, but they're always there on my task list and I don't forget to eventually do them. Number 4, batch tasks into chunks. Okay, so let's have a look at how we structure our day so that we get loads of stuff done. Bearing in mind, I used to be an EA, so I know, trust me, I know that you can't predict how a day is going to go and how many people are going to interrupt you. So let's talk about the method first, and then let's talk about how we can apply this to you guys. So some of you, I'm sure, have heard of the Pomodoro method. No, it's not chucking tomatoes at people who interrupt you to ask stupid questions. It is, in fact, a really useful time management method that helps you break down large chunks of time into smaller chunks of time. The premise is that you work in short bursts with regular breaks. So, for example, you take one of your tasks, you work for 25 minutes, you then take a break to make a cup of tea, check in with a colleague, or in my case, make sure my 2-year-old hasn't been watching Peppa Pig for the last 25 minutes. And then you start working again for another 25 minutes. After 100 minutes, you take a longer break of around about half an hour to an hour. Now for me, I really like this method because it firstly understands the need to take regular breaks, and secondly, it gives you the structure to batch tasks together. So, have a look through your to-do list. Do you have tasks that can be batched together? So for example, going back to expenses, do you do the expenses for say 3 executives? If you do, batch that into one block of time. In other words, do them together in one straight sitting. The same goes for say filing paperwork or printing board packs. Do it all in one go, in one block of time. Why? Because you are concentrating on one thing. You will have all the resources you need to get everything done at the same time. And you can decrease distractions because you're not hopping from one task to the next. And you only have to concentrate for 25 minutes before you can actually go and take a break. Now, when you do think about how you batch your tasks, absolutely include managing your emails and meetings. I now set aside two 25-minute chunks per day to check my emails, but I'll come on to this later. So, back in the day, every single PA I knew said they were brilliant at multitasking. We could all juggle a whole load of tasks without dropping the ball, and it's still absolutely one of our skills. But most productivity experts now say that multitasking is not so great. This is because multitasking is really about reacting to what is happening around you. And yes, probably dealing with it, but probably not focusing or finishing something in its entirety. It's more putting out fires than finding out why the fire started in the first place. As PAs, we've got to be strategic thinkers in able to help our executives succeed. And to think strategically, we have to find the time to focus. Multitasking does not lend itself well to being focused or being strategic in your thinking. Number 5, what or who are your time zappers? So, you're now probably thinking to yourself, right, I'll have to work out how much time everything takes. I'll have to do the crappy tasks. I'll have to make sure I tick everything off of my to-do list. Happy days, right? No, I get that, because life isn't that simple. We would all be Beyonce, wouldn't we, if that life was that simple and things were that easy to accomplish. No, there are those little things I like to call time zappers. They can be other people and they can be habits we get into or problems that crop up that take our focus or kill our productivity. Let's have a little look at a list I pulled together in a blog from a few months ago. Firstly, and obviously, interruptions, and this I think deserves its own tip, so I'll come back to that one. Secondly, powering through your day. Now, I've touched on this already and I'm pretty guilty of it. By trying to cram everything into your day without taking a break, it's just crazy, and actually it's really unproductive. You've got to take regular breaks. If you can't take a full hour for your lunch, hey, look, I hear you. I'm so guilty of that one. I try to power through work, but often find myself staring at the computer and wondering why I can no longer feel my backside. Regular breaks are so necessary, and you'll find you're much more productive after a short break. Also, taking a quick break away from your desk means that you can go out and catch up with other colleagues and find out what's happening in other parts of the business, which will help your career development. So really, it is a win-win. Another example, keeping everything stored in your head. Now, I know most assistants love lists. I love lists and use them in every aspect of my life. From experience, I know I'm much more productive when I have a list of tasks to work through. I would say for me, lists basically keep me sane as well as productive. So I don't know if I'm quite making myself clear enough or getting the message across, but I absolutely highly recommend you keep a to-do list. Next one, saying yes to everything is an absolute total time zapper. This might be the reason that you've got too much work in the first place. And there really are only so many hours in the day. And then you guys as assistants, you cannot and should not say yes to everything asked of you. You have to know what is actually expected of you, and you do have to push back on work that you shouldn't be doing. Now, don't get me wrong, I know for assistants this is a balancing act. You want to be helpful for everybody, but you don't want people taking advantage. So my role when I was an EA was that I would be mega helpful when I wasn't busy. If I didn't have much work on, then I would have the time to do the small tasks that colleagues would ask me to do. When I was busy, which to be fair was most of the time, I would say that I didn't have the capacity to do the task. As we discussed in the time management panel session that you guys will see, you know the bigger picture and your tasks are in line with the organisation's strategic direction. So you can say no to requests that aren't as important as those already on your to-do list. And the biggest time zapper of all is email, which I'm going to come on to now. And this is number 6. Turn off your email notifications. Now, emails have got to be the number one drain on people's time. We get absolutely bloody loads of emails, don't we? I could dedicate this entire 30 minutes to sorting out your email management. But alas, I have other stuff to talk to you about. So I'm going to share my number one tip, and it's a simple one. You have got to turn off your email notifications, seriously, all of them. The little jingly noise, the window that pops up, the little envelope in your toolbar, all of them. If you want to be more productive, half the battle is limiting distractions, and email notifications are an absolute killer. So turn them off. Okay, I think I've made my point on that one. Okay, number 7. Let's go back to those dreaded interruptions. It goes without saying that assistants get interrupted a lot. Being the face of our organisation, the go-to person, is great, but it comes with a lot of questions and demands on our time. Working in an open plan office just makes this 10 times worse. So how do we stay focused, on track with all of the tasks and deal with those constant interruptions? It's tough, but there are a few strategies you can put in place that can help mitigate the interruptions. Some of them are pretty simple, but you might not have thought of them because you just assume being interrupted is part of the job title. If you seriously need to concentrate on something, work from home. Take a day at home, work in your favourite pyjamas and get that work done. If your boss isn't keen on the idea, firstly, can I say that they're an idiot? Okay, maybe not. They might have legitimate concerns as to why you can't work from home. So book yourself a meeting room in your building and focus in there. Obviously, ideally a meeting room without a glass door so that nobody can see you and interrupt you in there. If this isn't an option, can you leave the building and go to a nearby cafe? Actually, you'll be surprised at how much work you get done sitting in Starbucks with the other trendy digital nomads all trying to launch the next big startup. It's a good environment to work in. Now, interruptions are absolutely par for the course. It's how we deal with them that will help us remain productive. If you are just in your general day-to-day, then again, the Pomodoro technique has a good system for dealing with day-to-day interruptions, and it goes like this. Firstly, inform the other party that you're working on something right now. Then negotiate a time when you can get back to them about the distracting issue in a timely manner. Schedule that follow-up immediately, and then call back the other party when your task is completed and you're ready to tackle their issue. So in this technique, you're not being aggressive, you're not telling someone to get lost, you're just delaying your helpfulness. And this is number 8. What are your priorities? Well, firstly, it kind of goes without saying that your priorities are your business's and your executive's priorities. They are fundamental aspects of your role, and everything you do has to be strategic. But obviously, sometimes in life, your priorities are fixing the photocopier. So it's not all exciting stuff, I get that. Begin to look at your to-do list and prioritise what is important and what has to get done. That is a really critical skill for PAs. We have to have a clear idea of what is important and what is urgent. And there's a really useful technique called the Eisenhower matrix that can help you with that. So, for those of you who don't know, Dwight D. Eisenhower was President of the States towards the end of the Second World War. In a speech he gave to the UN in 1945, he said, "I have 2 kinds of problems, the urgent and the important. The urgent are not important, and the important are never urgent." Now, when I first read this, I thought, blimey, doesn't that sound like a day in the life of a PA? Yeah, it totally does. So basically, what he was saying was that we spend our time on urgent tasks and neglect the things that are actually important. So for EAs, how do we use this Eisenhower principle? First of all, get your to-do list and put your tasks into these categories. The first one is important and urgent. There are 2 distinct types of urgent and important activities. Ones that you couldn't have foreseen, and others that you've left until the last minute. Now, obviously, you can eliminate the last minute activities by planning ahead. However, you can't always predict or avoid some issues or some crisis. So plan some time into your day that allows for urgent and important tasks. The second category is important but not urgent. These are the activities that help you achieve your personal and professional goals and actually complete all of your important projects. So make sure that you have plenty of time in your day to do those things properly so that they don't either become urgent or they, and this is a bit more worrying, that they get lost in all of the other stuff that you do in your day to day. The third one is not important but urgent. Urgent but not important tasks are those things that prevent you actually achieving any of your goals. So when anything like that crops up, do ask yourself whether you can reschedule it or delegate it to somebody else, or if the request has actually come from a colleague, can you say no? My ninth tip is good procrastination and bad procrastination. Now, we all know that procrastination absolutely sucks. Hours can go by for me where I have done literally no work, but I am up to date on my friend's recent trip to Thailand. I know what I'll be wearing next spring as long as, I lose half a stone. I've put on 3 loads of washing and I've reorganised all of my kids' toys. So yeah, I absolutely get what it's like to procrastinate. We all know that procrastinating is a productivity no-no. We know that procrastinating means putting things off, leaving it to the last minute, doing other less urgent, less important tasks. We know that it stresses us out and it makes us feel like we're absolutely losing at this whole productivity game. So why do we do it? Well, it's because it feels good. That's why. Like anything, we usually do the stuff we like, and when we procrastinate, it's usually time spent doing the stuff that takes us away from the stuff that we actually don't want to do. So how do we stop procrastinating? Well, a lot of the tips so far that I've talked about will help you with that. Use your breaks to do the stuff that you would usually do when you procrastinate. Check Facebook on your break. I mean, why not? If you've focused for 25 minutes, you absolutely deserve it. Do the procrastinating in the breaks and then get back to the business at hand. Now, I don't want to fill you with the hope that my next point is going to help with procrastination, because we do know procrastination is literally the opposite of productivity. But you can have some good procrastination, particularly if you achieved something while you're procrastinating. Daydreaming is a real classic example of procrastination, but actually a lot of creative types suggest this type of procrastination is a good way of developing ideas and concepts, and actually there's a phrase for it, it's called concepting. So next time you're sitting at your desk staring into space, perhaps you're not actually procrastinating, you're allowing your ideas to ferment, you are weighing up your ideas and thinking things through. Or you're sitting there imagining what it'd be like to be married to Tom Hardy. Or is that just me? I don't know. If you are a creative type, or you have to think about how to solve complex problems, sometimes a little procrastination will help you develop those solutions. Okay, this is my final point. Number 10. Be your own time gatekeeper. You are an EA, you manage your executive's time, and you're really, really good at it. But you also need time for yourself, your work and your objectives. So do treat your time with the same amount of importance as you do treat your executives. Being productive in your working hours, working smarter, not harder, really will serve you in the long run. You've got a lot of stuff on your plate, at home, at work, we all do. And hopefully some of these tips today will help you with everything you have to fit in your day-to-day life. So thank you so much for listening.